ora koutou katoa, e ho mai, no mai, hara mai, ki te Palpate or StayMe Always, bringing it to you organic, live and dynamic. Now bring me your cups. Cheers. To the healing well.
Cheers.
Cheers. So before we get started, I'd love to introduce my amazing Divergents. Anmi, how are you going over there on the Gold Coast?
Fantastic, Jamie. Although we had a very chilly start this morning, 6 degrees, that's very cold on the Gold Coast. Now it's beautiful. I mean, it's cooling down again because it's like 4:30 almost. But we had a beautiful sunny day with not one cloud in the sky. And I was privileged to leave my house twice today.
Oh, fabulous. And obviously with your situation in terms of the lockdowns over in Australia, they've been lifted. We'll go into a bit more detail after that. But yeah, there's been some great news for us here in New Zealand. But before we continue, Mr. TZ Creator, kia ora, bro.
Tēnā rawati kia koe, StayMe Always, boa tarde, buenas tardes o buenas noches. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias. Muy bien. Estupendo.
Estupendo. Mi es increíble.
Very good.
So I asked you how you are. ¿Cómo estás?
Oh, apologies. I'm wonderful. Obviously, we are still in a level 4 lockdown here in New Zealand. I'm based in Hamilton, and today, I must admit, wasn't the sunniest of days, but that's okay. I've been able to get a lot of work done because obviously I'm still working and working from home. And I suppose it's also a good opportunity, which we'll go into very shortly. But with this particular show that we are going to be discussing today, it's a continuation from yesterday's show in regards to Botox and fillers. We're going to continue on with that conversation as it's important because at the moment with New Zealand, we're in a level 4 lockdown. We've had some great news in terms of a level 3 lift potentially from next week. But what's really important and what we really want to stress to everybody out there in terms of our audience is to give you a bit of an insight in terms of our background and expertise, because ultimately at the end of the day, we all are here for a reason, and we're here to ensure that we are helping everybody and anybody possible in terms of their emotional wellness and their mental well-being. But at the same time, we want to ensure that you feel confident knowing that us being here, we have the credentials to be sitting here having these conversations. So what I'm going to do is just throw it over to Anmi over there. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your background, Anmi, in terms of your profession and your expertise.
Thank you, Jamie. Well, actually, I'm a communications specialist. I hold a master's in corporate communication and social communication. So basically, my strength is building relationships and helping people to do so as well. And it's not necessarily romantic relationships. I do that as well, but within the workplace, human resources, negotiations. I've won a few awards for negotiations. And basically, the takeaway line here is, do not force your view on somebody else, because then it's just not going to work. You need to give them the choice, although you give them the choice, you know, so you give them preferably 2 or 3 choices that work for you, then it's always a winner. And so I also have a background in neuro-linguistic programming. So that's one of the tools in my belt that I use in my coaching. I am a confidence coach, and as my company name explains, accountability expert. I use a lot of accountability because there is, in the world in general, there is a lot of finger pointing and blame because nobody is responsible for the situation that they are in, as we know, right? Wink, wink. And because if the government did it, yes, he agrees. The government did it, or the weather did it, or somebody else, or your grandmother did it, but the most people, they don't have any responsibility for the situation that they are in. And then they arrive with me, and then we kind of like break that all down. And then they come to the, revelation that, oh my God, they are actually at least 90% responsible for the situation that they are in. And then what the tools that I use is also timeline therapy. It's a very, very old technique of the subconscious mind, because I would like to say that as well, like basically 5% of your thinking happens consciously, 95% is all the programs that you're running in the back of your mind. So that's subconsciously, and many people are not aware of that. And you probably know that we talk a lot about children between ages 0 to 7. They are actually in a hypnotic state and they operate subconsciously. So, and I also use clinical hypnosis, and don't let that scare you, because it's basically all I do is engineering of your subconscious mind. That's it. It's just making a tiny little tweak, and all the wheels start to spin differently. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell.
Fantastic. And I might require your services. So when I need to get my partner under a specific to do all the things that I don't want to do, I will be in contact. So, yeah, I'll be in contact with you after the show. And me, TZ Created. Give us a bit of an understanding in terms of your background, your expertise, and your experience.
People are probably going to, or possibly going to, make the assumption that I'm an expert in music. I have a gift for music. When it comes to gifts, my opinion on gifts is, when you have a gift for something, you just got it. And so you don't have to work on it that much, but you still got to refine the crafts that attribute to that gift. Like, so for me, I had to get really good at mixing, mastering, production in terms of manipulating sound so I can get the sound that I want for my music. But when it comes to writing, that just flows, because that's what songwriters do. It's a gift. In terms of my specialist fields, I would definitely say that I'm an information cipher. So I have a gift for reading all kinds of different languages, interpreting them, and then going out into the field and doing excursions at Stone Age sites, megalithic structures, Cyclopean architecture, underground cities, which is why I love the Middle East and South America. When you talk about places like Sacsayhuaman, the Great Pyramid of Giza, Göbekli Tepe, places that are just superiorly ancient. And so I have a gift for interpreting hieroglyphics, cartouches, the Hebrew language. We're currently learning the Aramaic language, and then the Greek. So I have a photographic memory that's also eidetic, and it lends itself to that. And then on the other side, because I base all of my thought processes around the definition of words and how people communicate, that directly translates into psychology. And so those are my two specialist fields: information ciphering, and then psychology, helping to unlock people's minds from the previous programming that they've been subjected to. Yeah.
What's actually really great too with TZ on board, the team, is I'm not sure if I'm going to call it a gift just yet, but he may state otherwise. But TZ,
I am right now.
I have visions through dreams, and when I'm actually awake. And I have been experiencing different visions of symbols, and so hence why he brought up Aramaic, because one of the symbols that I've been seeing is Aramaic cuneiform. So I'm trying to understand what that means to help me to decipher the different types of symbols that I've been seeing through various visions when I have been asleep, but also been awake. So that's been a great opportunity for me to tap into an unknown kind of a spiritual experience where, yeah, it's going to be good for me. And it's another area in terms of life that I've always wanted to experience and understand. So, you know, I'm in an opportunity now where I can do so. But in terms of my experience, so look, my experience is all self-taught. And I've been in the clothing retail corporate industry now for well over 20 years. I've worked across New Zealand and Australia with two of the biggest renowned retail businesses. And look, my specialties obviously comes along with being a national retail manager for a company. And my specialty, and actually I would say it's a gift, is understanding people management, human resource, and employee relations. What's been great with being in the industry for so long is that you obviously understand how it works from, you know, a trend, a pattern perspective. And what's made it really great is that all my experience has been transferable no matter where I am. But what I love about my job is the amount of different types of people, cultures, diversities, backgrounds, you name it. I'm very much a people person, and I will take the time where I can to really understand the psychology of an individual to try and help them. And being in my role, especially the position that I'm in now here in New Zealand, working for one of New Zealand's largest women's New Zealand-owned retail clothing businesses, is that I'm in a position where I can really use my role to support, assist, and help a lot of women. Obviously, a women's business. We're able to help a lot of women, mums, students, to be able to empower them, to give them, you know, the tools, the resources, but the knowledge, not just working within a store in retail, but the confidence as a female to actually, you know, think big, dream, and, you know, we can do anything. So no, it's not just all about women. Obviously, I'm an advocate for males as well, and supporting the males in the industry. But obviously, I'm just in a very you know, privileged position to be able to use my role to really aid and support females. So. And look, it was really important that I think we spoke about our background, because we're in a platform where we want everybody to feel safe and secure, and a platform to come to find out information that really at the end of the day is only going to assist and help you in your life, with your family, and from that emotional wellness and mental well-being perspective. So yeah, definitely. That's what we're here for. And if you need any further support, check out our social media platforms. And I absolutely promote Anmi and her advice and what she stands for. She's an amazing woman. So please jump on her website and her social and reach out to her, because she definitely will be able to put you in the right direction. So look, what we're going to do is we're going to go straight into and follow on from what we were talking about yesterday. Botox and fillers. So here in New Zealand, we had the announcement come over social in the news that New Zealand will potentially go into a level 3 lockdown as of Tuesday 11:59. So Auckland and the Northland region will remain in level 4, and every town and city outside of that area will go into level 3. What does that actually mean? So at this point, to be honest, it doesn't really mean a lot. Ultimately, what that allows businesses to do is a contactless service. So obviously, being in the retail industry, we cannot open our stores to trade to the capacity as what we would usually do, but it does allow us the opportunity to open our doors, well, actually to that extent, to provide a contactless service. But what's really important here is that I think we need to understand the effect that the lockdown actually has had on businesses in general. And Anne-Marie, for you, obviously this is now, how many lockdowns have you guys had over there in Australia? Multiple?
In Australia, yes, but here on the Gold Coast, we're very lucky. We had a major lockdown in last year in March, actually April, May, 8 weeks, I think, 6 to 8 weeks. Takeaway was allowed. Let me think. Yeah, takeaway was allowed. And then we had like one lockdown of 10 days, and that finished on the 8th of August. So that's all we had so far. So fingers crossed, I mean, that everything stays like that. But Melbourne, I think, has been in lockdown on and off for 7 months, really. And Sydney is now in lockdown as well. And there's actually, apparently, there is army the army is in the street guarding certain apartment blocks. And I think I told you yesterday as well, like they are building a new facility for quarantining in 200 kilometers away in the regional areas. But lockdown-wise, we have been very, very lucky here.
So in terms of, your own business, what has the effect of what Botox has done for you and potentially maybe give us a bit of an understanding, because you would have multiple clients across different industries. So through those conversations, the effect that Botox has had on their business and their trade and the potential to earn money.
Well, I have some really clients that are very, very big on a world scale in the food providing business. And they have factories in multiple countries all over the world. Obviously, due to privacy reasons, I will not be able to disclose where they are. But they had obviously some restrictions imposed on if the factories could open, yes or no. Things have kind of worked pretty good for this client because food, people need food, so we need to keep going with food. My other clients, there is one client that worked in the wedding industry, and that was obviously horrible. She's now switched to doing photography for weddings, which is, a little bit less horrible because you can just go to the beach and do the social distancing as much as you can and take pictures. So she's actually reinvented herself. Then I have another client that is working in, I'm just going through my clients who's been affected the most. This is a lady, she works in import and export in Perth. Yes, she said there was lots of delays with the containers coming in, angry clients, even food supply. Like I have a client that works as a manager in a gigantic supermarket chain. I think he's a regional manager as well. And he was telling me that he's under a lot of pressure, working a lot of hours, way more hours than normal, because there is, there are just shipments that don't arrive. So yeah, but for my own personal business, I have to say, the only thing I can't do, usually I used to run workshops in person, so 20 to 30 people. Obviously, I can't do that right now. I probably can, but from the moment I organize it, the restrictions come in and I have to cancel it. So I've kind of like shifted that online. And for the rest, seeing clients, most of my clients, they are scattered all over the world. So I have some Australians, and the Australians are not even on the Gold Coast. I have just a few clients here on the Gold Coast. But my main clientele is in Europe, America, Russia, Dubai. Yeah.
So you've positioned yourself, no matter kind of what sort of challenges and restrictions hit you, you're actually in a prime position because you can pivot your business to then, take it online in that particular way, isn't it?
And also different things, because before we used to use only one channel to connect online, sometimes just FaceTime. But now, if you can see, you have like Zoom, you have Skype, you have Google Meet, Meetups, so easy to, whatever the client wants, that's how you connect. So,
Yeah.
so many options that you have as well. And you can record as well. So you can record the sessions. Before, no one was really recording because you can really learn from listening again. And before, I used to have clients call me up and say, hey, I've forgotten to write down the question you asked me halfway through when I was telling you about that. And then you want people, to remember, if I've spoken to 5 people that day or 6, what a question I asked. So now it's just simply record the session, send it to the client, and they can re-listen. And I get really great feedback about that as well, saying, oh my God, when I listened to it again, it was like watching a movie for the second time. I could see so much more. So yeah, for me, it's really worked very well.
Yeah, so you've been able to pivot your business to an extent where you've actually probably now your productivity is, would you say, has it improved, and even the way that you do business is potentially better?
Yes, I would say so. And I think also people had like the perception that, okay, we need to kind of like a psychologist, let's go and see Annemie, the ones that can. And then I say to them, well, you don't need to drive all the way out here. Not that it's like so far, but you can just, I don't know, that's the beauty of meeting over Zoom. You might as well sit in your underwear and wear a shirt and look presentable. And I mean, that is your secret, isn't it? If you don't have a mirror behind you, I think it's all pretty good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I suppose too, you could actually, from a slightly different perspective and depending upon the industry, your costs could become potentially decreased by utilizing your online platforms, because ultimately you don't have to travel, you don't have to worry about fuel and even time, getting from A to B.
Less risk as well, because I mean, I'm not going to say you're going to die in the car. I'm not one of these fatalist people, but still, traffic has increased here on the Gold Coast with all the people from, like Victoria and Sydney moving here. So there is more traffic, and if you don't like driving, so sometimes I just don't feel like driving. So it's much easier to just hop on Zoom or Skype or Google Meetups and happy days.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose too, also from an emotional wellness perspective and just the way the world is in how we operate now, our thoughts and our feelings and just the smallest things can affect us in such a massive way and scaled so big that, being able to provide that service online could be the difference between, them potentially doing something that they never thought that they would do versus stopping and thinking and going, actually, I can stay and be secure in my own home and still have that service and get that service from Unme with her amazing expertise. And that could actually stop them in their tracks to potentially do something that could be harmful.
Yes, 100%. But also, I think we need to always embrace, because I was actually speaking to this client, who has this influence on a world scale this morning, and we were talking about when is a good time to start a business with COVID as well, So with Botox, yeah. So when is a good time to start a business? Well, it's always a good time to start a business, because if you keep on waiting and waiting, I caught myself there. I was like, code words, very important, naughty. So yes, but I was actually saying covert, yes.
I love it.
Good comeback. Good comeback.
But yes, good coming back, well, when is a good time to start a business? Well, whenever there is actually the best businesses have actually grown or started, they were started in a crisis. Really, if you go and look at history. So, because I do have a bad story that I want to share with you with people who are too much in the old ways. This is a client in Europe, and they have a gigantic fashion store, a little bit like your business, Jamie. But so these people, they're stationary in one area, 2,000 square meters of fashion, and when Botox hit, we immediately chatted to each other and what are we gonna do? And immediately I said, move online. And they have the facilities to have catwalks. They have a catwalk that they do fashion shows on every season and invite people in. And I said, do the catwalk anyways, do the fashion show and film it, and then have the clothes like pop up on the side and make it easy for the client to buy. And that particular gentleman was very stuck in his ways, and he's not old, he's 45. I mean, that's like a spring chicken. So, right, Teasy. Um, so I was like, okay, I can understand if you are
coming, you're on a roll.
you feeling good. So I can understand if you're 95, it's a little bit harder to understand clothes online, clicking and buying something that you can't touch. But I mean, 45, come on, get a grip on yourself. So didn't listen, continued on the old-fashioned way, and the right word, old-fashioned way, and and now, big disaster. We have 3 collections sitting there that have not sold, and now probably they have to do final sellout and close up. So you need to. It's super important to reinvent yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree, and I absolutely understand every word you're saying, Anne, because being in my industry, in my role, I have such a I'm such a pivotal position within the business that, you've constantly got to be at the front foot versus the back foot. And I think too, and we're doing another show over the next week with different New Zealand businesses in terms of how Botox has actually affected them, but also trying to also give our audience ideas in terms of what they can do to kind of improve, pivot, scale their business, because these are things that potentially maybe they haven't thought of. So, that's going to be exciting when we do that. But Teasy, for yourself, tell us in terms of, what has Botox done for you in terms of your businesses and even your experience with the being in Australia last year.
Yeah. I did something that most people would think was crazy. I actually started a business in the midst of Melbourne lockdown. And the problem is when you can see all the elements and see everything unfolding, I have the kind of mind that I revel in chaos. And so I can pick out all the opportunities and grab them all and shape them and mold them into something that can grant people benefit. And so what I did was I started some Botox clinics. And I had no idea about Botox, so I had to go and learn that. But as I said before, I'm an information sucker. And so it doesn't matter what the information is, that's what I do. I grab information, I interpret it, and then once I think I have enough, then I go and talk to the appropriate people in order to make the dream happen. So I spoke to a doctor in Sydney. Her name is Sin Wee Tan, or Sin Wee Tan, Chinese doctor based in, and I always forget the name of that place. Can't remember. Somewhere in the northern rivers of New South Wales. Grafton. So she was in Grafton, and I wrote a contract. Never written a contract in my life, but wrote a highly detailed and elaborate one, which made her believe that I was a business mogul. And ultimately, that's all you have to do. All you have to do is convince people that you're the right person for the job. So I proposed the contract to her. She signed it, brought her on board as the doctor I was going to use her license to ratify everything. And then I started recruiting all my nurses, nurse practitioners who have a master's in nurse practitioning as opposed to just a bachelor, and obviously someone endorsed in cosmetic injections. And I had to learn all this stuff on the fly along the way. And then I helped a single mum with 4 kids Yeah, and that was really my motivating factor, was seeing all these single mums like you, StayMe Always, and feeling sorry for them. And I knew that I had two gifts. I could unlock people's minds, and because I'm an information cipher, I could do business. So I put those two together and didn't even have a business plan. And I wouldn't say I wung it, or I was winging it. I just have an ability to extrapolate information very rapidly and then execute. And so I was doing that along the way. So I ended up creating work for people in COVID. I won't elaborate on the finer details or on how I did that, but I was able to achieve something that other clinics weren't doing, because they were in lockdown, and they were under the pump, so they were closed down. They weren't having any people in there, and I was able to pivot in a very restricting situation, and then turn that into money for single mums, nurses who were endorsed but didn't have their bachelor. And so those are the kind of things that were motivating for me. And for me, I always have to be moved by something greater than me, because if it's just me, I'll just go to work in the mines, or work at a factory. But when I'm buoyed by something greater than me, then that's when I bring all of my gifts and my talents together, and I utilize them to benefit other people. Because I think if we're not doing that, especially for us kind of people, where we have certain gifts and talents that we can help to use to benefit other people, like what we're doing right here, I think we should use them. As they say, the old cliche, the old saying, to whom much is given, much is expected. And so that's the reason why we're doing this show. And then in terms of being in lockdown here, currently in level 4, I actually saw this coming. And so myself and my partner, we pivoted into this, and we started building an Amazon store. We started building my label, Play Ups, Open and Play, and now we're actually working on a possible groundbreaking deal, especially from here in New Zealand, with, I'm not going to say any names, but with a big American music giant. And so these are the things, when you team up with the right people, pivoting is real easy, because then some of that load is actually taken off you, and you start looking to your partner who's also operating at a very high clip. And then when you put your gifts together, and if your gifts are diametrically opposed, you actually end up complementing each other. You build a synergy with each other. Sometimes it's not easy understanding each other, but when you get it right, it's like lava flowing out of a volcano, like Kilauea in Hawaii. Everything just flows. You still got to put in the work though, and then you've pivoted to a point where you actually don't need to worry about going to work every day. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I actually want to help people. So we've got a program coming up called Cerebro Ignition, Ignite Your Dream. And we're going to unfold that in the future. We're going to teach people how to create online commerce so that they don't have to do the 9 to 5 anymore, and they can make money while they're sleeping. And then they have freedom. They have time freedom, because I think that exchanging your time for money is probably not the best thing that you can do with your time, because you could be spending your time with your family. You could be spending your time doing all your momentum brushes. I mean, we get to do it in lockdown because we have to stay home. But I think if people actually had businesses that were online, that were making them passive incomes, and if you don't know what a passive income is income that comes in whether you go to work or not. You're making money while you sleep. I'm kind of already doing that with crypto, because even though crypto goes up and down, when it goes up, I'm making money while I sleep. So yeah, that's what I've got to say about pivoting through Botox.
And what's great, and it's been amazing being able to get to know both you and TZ, is that there's such a wealth of knowledge, a plethora of knowledge and expertise and experience that I myself personally have been able to tap into. And I think what's really key here for our audience is that use the people that are successful. Reach out to those who you know. And believe me, everybody knows somebody, but you've actually got to stop and think who those people are and utilize them to help push your goals forward. Like I said, we've got a couple of shows really focusing on business and how to pivot and grow a successful business in times like what we are in terms of a level 4 lockdown. But and look, we're going to be unfortunately in a position where our time is up. But just before we go, I just really wanted to go back to obviously what we're talking about in terms of Botox and fillers, and just the various experiences that are happening on the ground floor. You know, put yourself in a position where, how many times have you contacted a customer service, whether it was for wins, whether it was for an energy company, a bank, perfect example, a bank, and you've wanted to inquire about some information regarding funds, a process, or something that's happened, and how many different people have you actually contacted and they've given you, 4 or 5 different options and different reasonings for the one question that you have? I know that's happened to me, and I know, TZ, for you, you've had that experience over the last few days. But the point I'm trying to make here is that you have to do your research, and you cannot allow one person to give you the answer. So a perfect example would be, and everybody here at some point or knows of somebody that's dealt with wins. How many times, and I've been told by a lot of single mums that I work with, that in order to help each other, we've given each other information, because you know what? When you can apply for funding and get free money, who doesn't want free money? Hey, free money. But every time you actually go to wins, as an example, the problem being is that depending upon what day it is, what time it is, and who you talk to, you are going to get different reasons as to whether or not you can actually access those particular funds. And me, what's your experience? And I suppose even if it's not the experience, what advice can you give our audience around really doing your research and not stopping at one person?
Before I make a phone call, I kind of like already know the answer. It's the same as when I go to the doctor, I already know what I have most of the time. But that's one. But then you need to have the other person to concur, because otherwise you're not going to get what you want. So what I've learned is you need to, when you take this action and you call up to gain information or to double check your information or to kind of have this person press the button on the other side so you get what you want, give yourself a large enough window. Because I think many people think, I have 38 minutes left of my lunch break, or I don't know if you have half an hour lunch break. Ooh, I have another 14 minutes of lunch break. I'm going to quickly call up and ask this. And then there is no quickly call up. Like, forget about that. That is just because that is how these companies have structured their customer service, that you quick is not good. So make sure that you call up, take a day off, or I don't know, gift yourself a day to yourself and make a window of at least an hour and a half in that day to give them a call. Or call early enough. Like sometimes some of these what do you call it, call centers are open from 7 a.m. So make sure that you call right on the dot. Yeah. And then number two is use sophisticated lexicon, which is fancy words. Because if you start using like swear words, already you have sunk to the bottom of the barrel and you're never going to get what you want. So you want to show this person, even if you have only 10 minutes, you want to show this person that you have 5 hours and you are not going to hang up until you have an answer. That's my trick, and it seems to work very well. If things escalate and you don't get what you want, ask to speak to a manager. That's another really good trick. and say, I have all the time in the world, but I would like to speak to a manager, please. Then keep a log of when you called, how long the phone calls were, and who you have spoken to, because sometimes one call, you're connected from Johnny to Scott to Mary, and this is very important that you keep track of the names of the people that you have spoken to, on which date, at which time. Because the next time, if you need to call again, you can pull out Johnny, Scott, and Mary on the 24th of August at 3:45 p.m. Yes, this is very important. And don't give up. Keep going and make sure that I'm not saying arguing, but make sure that you get what you want. Don't just say, oh, it's too hard. It's never too hard.
No, I totally agree. And just to tag on to what you're saying on me, because everything you're talking about is the basic, real basics in terms of how to be and ensure that you get what you want at the end of the day. Take the emotion out of it, because ultimately if your emotion comes into play, it's going to affect how rational you become, and like you said, in terms of your languaging and the way that you come across, can affect potentially what the outcome is you're looking for. I suppose in this case too, thinking about Botox and how it relates and fill and how it relates back to the circumstances, that don't be fooled what one person's saying, because there's going to be multiple people saying different things at different times, and you still need to ensure you do your own research, so you are very clear in your own thought process about what you believe, so then you can make a structured and a confirmed decision. What makes it really hard, I suppose, when you're on the ground floor, like how we are here, and as well as you and me, and your experience, our lockdown that we're currently living in, is that there's so many different situations that are popping up every day that are so confusing that it actually throws you off course in terms of what your beliefs are and what your values are and what your morals are. And something simple as this. So, Teasy, you were telling me the other day, you went for a walk and you went past the Shell station. Do you want to fill us in with your experience?
I've just been sitting here laughing. So when I do the show, obviously when I'm not talking, I mute my mic. For two reasons, because I don't want to have any feedback come through on your girl's side, and then because sometimes I have some little friends in here and they're asking me questions. Oh, can I get Roblox? Or can I have your phone? Or you know how it is with kids, because they have no filters. They're just trying to get something that they want. So in terms of going for a walk early in the morning, going for a hikoi, doing my momentum brushes live on IGTV, and then getting down there. So first 3 days of lockdown, we go for a walk, and then we call into the S service station or the Z service station, and they're selling coffee. So you go in and you get what is it? Americano with soy, and then cappuccino with soy. So you're there 3 days in a row. Then you go back, and then all of a sudden there's a sign up on there. I'll actually put it in the end of this. Just around the shelf at the end, so you can see it, because I've took a photo on my phone and I'll put it into this to the editing, the last part of this video. And they're saying due to Botox restrictions, I said due to covert operations, CAFE, surreptitious activity, CAFE is no longer available. And so I look at my partner and I'm like, so these people are selling food. What's the difference between café and food and comida? So yeah, and so you start to see all the cracks in their story. You start to see all the inconsistencies in the story if you're awake. And so that's the reason why we're doing these particular types of shows, is to let people know what's actually going on out here. And I know that there's people out, our audience are going through life and they're doing these same things and they're encountering these exact same things. So please message us on our social media pages, TZ Created. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Insta, I'm on TikTok, and I'm on Twitch. And feel free to message. We will actually, if you send videos, I will edit your actual videos into this show, because we want everybody to be a part of this show. This is not just about me and StayMe Always and accountability expert. This is for everyone. So send your videos in of your experiences, your momentum brushes, and anything else you want to add to that. But, keep it civil, keep it civil. And then my last one, because I've been back in New Zealand after being overseas for between 15 and 20 years. I'm off and on, but most of it's been overseas. And I come back to New Zealand, and I love this country, man. I was born here, and I spent most of my life here, and I love the people. It was really amazing walking the streets here, and everybody says hello. Everybody says something nice to you, and I've been talking to my family and my cousins who are still overseas about this. When you first get here, it's hard to get used to because you're not used to it because you've been away for so long. So then I'm with my Amazon shop that I'm building, which is an online platform for a passive income. So you build your shop, people sell it, and then so I have my point of sale on my website, etc., etc. So obviously you need distribution, you need freight. So I ring FedEx, I'm talking to them, and it's exactly like you said, Anmi, and you, StayMe Always. It's a psychology game, and it's an information game. And everything is always how people deal with information. And so it really doesn't matter what you're saying, it's how they're socially conditioned to deal with information. And so you're always getting different interpretations from different people on the same information that they're reading or that they're having conveyed to them, because everybody has different psychology. A person's psychology is as unique as their fingerprint. And so you're actually not dealing with information, you're dealing with psychology, you're dealing with people's minds. And so because that's my area of expertise, and so I know how to make suggestions to them and also how to come across to them so that they know that I'm not perturbed or consternated. And I'm using too big of words here, so I'll break it down in layman's terms for the cuzzy bros out there. So it's like this, because so in layman's terms is when it makes you hoha. You know what I'm saying, cuzzies? When it makes you hoha, you actually got to change tact and just tell them, oh, no, it's all good, bro. It's all good. It's fine. You got a job to do. I got a job to do. I'm not trying to get on your nerves, and I know you're not trying to get on my nerves. So let's just work together. And that's where the afi comes in. That's where the manaki comes in. And you just really got to apply our kiwi ana, so to speak, and work with people instead of working against them, and try and figure out what they're thinking about a particular subject that you're conversing about. It's called whakawhitiwhiti in te reo Māori, rerenga kōrero. So you're exchanging. Whakawhitiwhiti means to exchange conversation or to alternate between each other. And so StayMe always said that she wanted to start dropping some kupuhau in the show. Some kupuhau in the show. There goes the kupuhau in the show. So that's what we're going to start doing from here. Yeah, I've had a little bit to drink, so I'm just flowing, because that's what happens when I have a little bit to drink. So my soliloquy gets a bit better of me. So yeah, all in all, it's beautiful being back home. The people are amazing, man, and I've missed that being overseas. And when you live here, you take it for granted. And so after coming back after 15 to 20 years overseas and talking to people here and really having to adjust my psychology to suit the people here, and it's been a major reconnection to home, and it's reminded me of who I am and bringing my identity back. And I'm getting a little emotional right now, but it's been an amazing transition. And even though I come unstuck sometimes because I get a little bit hoha, it's about what you said before. It's about perseverance. Persevere, because like Bob Marley said, people will always let you down. You got to find the people worth suffering for. Yeah, cool.
Absolutely. And look, I'm just going to be really, really quick, but it's really to back up everything that we are talking about in terms of Botox and filler. My mother went to go and get a test done at one of the stations. She was ushered through one individual that was wearing a mask. She was sent through to the next person. She was ushered through to the second person who was wearing a mask, and then was sent through to the third person. Isn't it interesting? The third person that she came across was not wearing a mask. So what does that tell you? And that's why when you come across situations like that, you've got to start asking questions, and don't just assume that what is being presented to you is 100% correct, because ultimately in level 4 lockdown, we were required to wear masks. But when you're in that front and you're in the forefront and on the ground floor in that medical arena, you know, you would assume, and assume's a big word here, but the fact of the matter is the type of situation that we're in, that they would be ready and geared and have the resources and the tools. But I really questioned the situation that my mum was put in, because ultimately they have been made, we've been given recommendations, and yet the medical field had failed to actually follow those recommendations. So I'm going to leave it there, something to think about, ponder on it. Obviously, talk to your friends and your family, understand the different circumstances of their experiences going to testing stations. What did that mean? You know, what does that look like? And if things don't add up, ask questions, but do your research and find the info. We're going to end it there. Thank you so much for joining in with us. We're going to be holding a number of sessions talking about Botox and fillers. So stay tuned. Thank you. And again, I'm me, Teasy Created. Stay safe and tune in to the Healing Well. StayMe Always. Like,
Saluda.
subscribe.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Kapu, ho.
Oh. Where's the stop recording button? Oh, there it is.